Gloria Joseph, Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Planning, Economic Development and Investment. Lucien Blackmore, Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Housing, Lands and Water Resource Management. Anthony Burnett Biscombe, Private Contractor, La Creole. Mr. Dennis Joseph, members of the media, fellow Dominicans. My name is Kelvin Rolle, Chief Physical Planner, Physical Planning Division. The Physical Planning Division utilizes the Dominica Building Code and Building Guidelines documents to provide the minimum standards for building design and construction in Dominica. The Building Code is being used since 1992 by all draftsmen and architects in designing residential buildings. We have been advised by the Board of Engineers that the Building Code provides the minimum standards to allow buildings to withstand Category 3 hurricanes. However, if the construction of buildings and particular roofs are done in accordance with the code and the building guidelines, we are of the opinion that roofs can withstand winds greater than that of Category 3 hurricanes. And we have seen that here. Okay. Our preliminary observations are that most roof failures were due from the hurricane were due to removal of galvanized sheeting from purlines. So first thing is the first obvious thing we see is the removal of the galvanized from the purlines. Then we see the removal of galvanized sheetings with purlines. So the galvanized sheetings and the purlines all went off together. This was most common. Then we have the removal of the galvanized sheetings with purlines, rafters, and the entire wall plate. The rafters is basically the framing, what makes the framing of the building. Sometimes you will find that the whole roof has gone with the wall plate, rafters, everything has gone. So we think that the failures were due to poor construction practices. Most of the applications which come into the Physical Planning Division have all the details for proper construction practices, spacings, everything that is required to provide safe homes and strong homes. So the failures may be due, like we say, to poor construction practices. Galvanized sheetings were attached to purlines with nails instead of using screws. Purlines were attached to rafters with nails instead of being screwed down. Hurricane clips or ties were not used to secure purlines to rafters. So each purline should have a hurricane clip or tie. Hurricane ties were not used on rafters. A lot of the buildings contractors did not put the hurricane ties. Anchor bolt spacing on wall plates were too far apart. This is in the case where the whole roof was lifted off, the anchor bolt spacings were too far apart. And there were many cases where the right galvanized sheetings were not used. We recommend that the 24 gauge galvanized sheeting should be used instead of 26. So if you use the wire galvanized sheeting, then there's also situations, although that may be debatable, where we have a minimum roof slope of 25 degrees. Some people might have put a more shallower roof slope. So the way forward to increase resilience to buildings, we think we need to increase the galvanized sheeting gauge. The persons who are reconstructing right now should use the proper galvanized sheeting gauge, which is the 24 gauge galvanized sheeting. Screws should be used in attaching galvanized sheeting to purlines, and the correct lengths of screws, don't shorten the lengths of the screws because it's going to cost a little bit more. A little bit more just doesn't help you today. The size of the purlines we think should be increased to possibly 2x4 or 3x4 instead of 2x3. And I've been informed that sometimes purlines are almost, we might use not even proper material for purlines because it's, this is just the way it's been done. Purlines should be screwed onto the rafters, and then they should also be using purline ties to tie the purline onto the rafters. You want everything very secure. The size of the rafters we think should be increased from 2x6 to 3x6. The architects and the engineers further will advise on that. The code has a specification for all those things. The table B3 of the building guidelines also gives the information of sizes and spacing of rafters, wall plates, etc. So I think most draftsmen and architects do follow the code. We think that most of the mistakes are made during construction. Okay, so right now we know a lot of people are quickly covering their roofs. We have situations where total reconstruction of roofs are being done. Planning permission is required for the reconstruction of an entire roof. If your entire roof is gone, you should submit complete drawings and get planning permission for your entire roof. And that is in the case where so if the total roof, the wall plate, the rafters, purlines, everything is gone, then you need to get planning permission. And persons are required to submit new drawings in accordance with the minimum standards. Now, there's some people who might just be putting the galvanized sheetings. The purlines have remained, putting the galvanized. Please use the correct gauge of galvanized sheeting. Don't use nails. We're not recommending nails. Way forward, we want screws. We want heavy screws that go right through. Okay? We are not expecting that you will submit plans if you're just replacing your galvanized sheeting. But we expect it for complete roofs. Now, a lot of people want to move to convert their timber roofs to concrete roofs. And this requires a new application. If you want to convert your timber roof to concrete roof, it requires a new application, drawings for the concrete roof, and the drawings have to be certified by a qualified engineer. I won't say a qualified engineer, an engineer. It has to be certified by an engineer, because not all buildings are suitable to take the load and the weight of a concrete roof. There's other things that might have to be done, or it just cannot be done. And we think that if you construct a timber roof is constructed properly, that it should be able to withstand the hurricanes that we are experiencing now, because many roofs stayed on, and we think it's due to proper construction. We have some concerns with a couple of things. One of them is being the quality of hurricane clips and ties. We have to maybe look at what we have available on the market. We have to review further. We have to review this further with the Board of Engineers, and we also have a concern with the quality of the wood that is used, that is being provided for building roofs. We think that we need to upgrade the timber that is being used. The timber should be much stronger, and we are going to liaise with the Bureau of Standards in that regard. Future, we think that a lot of training needs to be given to our building contractors. Certification, we have to have the certification process going. That's the way forward. And also that in regards to purchasing of land, some people might be when they go to purchase land, we have a concern that people purchase land in hazardous areas. If you're going to purchase land, you should first come and check with the physical planning division. We can look at the land and the area, the lot, and determine whether it's susceptible to all the different hazards. Nowadays, when you look at the landscape, the kind of landslides that came in from the interior with all the lumber and trees, we have to review where we build. Very important we review where we build, And people who own land in those areas better look for another spot to build. Dominica is a very difficult place to live in. It's very mountainous. The review of our physical planning, National Physical Planning Development Plan, showed that only 12% of the land is absolutely safe and suitable for development. So this is how difficult it is in Dominica. With that, I will say thank you very much and hand you over back to. Yes.